This is a quick review of the Felix Audio Echo Mark II. These have the Bugle Boy tubes on them currently, but yeah, as the X2O TA66 didn't do much in terms of sound, I picked up the next budget tube amp that got good reviews, and this is the Felix Echo Mark II. And it goes for around 900 euros. I picked this up used for about 500, but upgraded the front tubes for, I forget, around 70 or 100 euros. In all honesty, I didn't think the Bugle Boy tubes did too much in terms of the sound improvement. I think maybe it was a slight upgrade, but yeah, it's a little bit hard to A/B test on tube amps, as you have to, cool down the tubes, take them out, put it back in, and things like that. But honestly, just going off the top of my head, the differences weren't huge. I only have two headphones that go with this amp, and they are the ZMF Verite closed, and the Sennheiser HD600. I didn't like how it sounded on the Hi-Fi-Man HE1000 Stealth, which I also have. I think it's because that's a much lower ohm headphone, and so it didn't sound very good on it. The HD600 usually sits in my living room, so I actually didn't really listen to it on this amp before doing this test here. Yeah, so basically this amp was just purely used for my ZMF Verite closed headphones. When I first received this amp, the ZMF Verite closed had the Auteur pads, which are over here, and the headphones were purchased used, so they came with 6 sets of pads. And on it came the BE2 pads, which you can see here. And with the BE2 pads, it didn't sound very good on the topping L50 that I had before. And also it doesn't sound all that great on the Audi 2 either. It's a little bit too bright for my tastes, and just sound wasn't great. And so so the Auteur pads were the warmest, and so I put those on when I was listening to it on the topping because it sounded good, and also changing the pads on the ZMF headphones aren't that easy, and so I didn't really feel like pad rolling with all the other pads that this headset came with. There wasn't much motivation for that. And with the Auteur pads, using it with the Echo, it sounded a little bit too muddy and too dark. And so I didn't like that sound signature, whereas I really did like it on the Audi. And so because the previous owner said he used the BE2 pads because he was using the Felix Audio Envy, which is totally out of my price range, I swapped it back to the BE2 pads, and the sound was actually perfect. It didn't make huge alterations to the sound, but it added some warmth, just slight more sweetness to the vocals, and a bit more fullness to the sound. And, just the sum of those things really made the Verite Closed come alive. And with the BE2 pads, it was great. And for months, that's just how I used the setup. And of everything I owned, it was, and it still is, my favorite sound. Fast forward to last week, someone was looking up tube amps, and they ran across my TA66 review because I think they had also purchased the TA66 and they weren't very happy with it. And they also saw some of my posts on Reddit, and so they put the 2 and 2 together, and they sent me a message on Reddit about the Echo amp and if I recommended it. So I told them about my experiences with it and how it really did sound great with my ZMFs. And the headphones he told me he wanted to use it with was the HD800S, and I assumed the Echo would sound great because those are pretty bright headphones, right? And so with the brighter pads on the ZMFs, it made it sound really good. So so I told him I could probably recommend it for him. He received the Echoes the other day, and he said that he did not think it made that much of a difference in terms of sound for his HD800S. And he also tried it with the HD6XX, which he also owns. I was a bit surprised because my experiences were different. So I went to my living room and I got the HD600 to try between the Audi and the Echo. And he was right. There's actually a very subtle difference, but not much. And if I had to blind test it, I probably wouldn't be able to know which amp the HD600 was playing out of. I went back to my ZMF Verite closed and listened on the Echo and the Audi, and with the BE2 pads, it still sounded not so great on the Audi, but it sounded great on the Echo. But in listening more carefully, this is when I realized that the differences weren't huge, but that the sum of the small differences that I was hearing in the sound just combined to make a huge difference. So I begrudgingly pulled out my ZMF pads and tried the Auteur pads. Sure enough, I did not like the sound on the Echo with these, but also the differences weren't huge. It just made it muddier and darker, enough that I did not enjoy the sound. And I think I had over exaggerated probably in my head the differences before because I just really didn't like the sound. Then I took out the Universe pads, which I had actually never used before on, sorry, these are the B2. Now these have the Universe pads on there. So yeah, I took out the Universe pads and I put it on the, which is the most neutral pads for the Verite close, and I put it on there and I tried it on both amps. And surprisingly, the sound on the Audi was pretty similar to what I get with the Echo and the BE2 pads. And although I still do slightly prefer the Echo and the BE2 pads, the sound was pretty close. And with the Universe pads going from the 2 amps, the sound actually didn't change all that much. Yeah, it just got slightly, I think just slightly darker with the Echo 2, but yeah, not a huge difference. You know, I wish I could try this with more headphones, but unfortunately I don't have any local friends in this hobby and I don't want to purchase headphones just to test. And so, yeah, so I also did try it with the IEMA A70 on my Sonus Faber speakers. And actually I couldn't hear the difference between the 2 amps using it as a preamp. So to me personally, while the Echo plus the B2 pads combo sounded the best, the Universe and the Audi was very, very close. And the difference is actually not worth 500 euros. So, you know, while I love seeing this amp sitting on my desk, I think it looks great. It sounds great. I think I will have to decide to sell this amp because it's, yeah, the difference is not worth 500 euros. It might be worth it to someone who has more money than I do, but and is also looking for a slight improvement in sound. Yeah, but I think I'll just go from going forward now, I'll be just using my ZMF Verite close with the Universe pads and be satisfied with that. So let me know in the comments if you have any questions, and see you next time.